Say it again. Welcome to Brief History of the United States with Noam Slia. Our story starts at the Bering Straits, which most people don't even know about, by the way. This was a strip of ice/land that in between Russia and the United States. Now, people would walk across this Bering Strait and end up in America. And eventually that Bering Strait melted, ended up kind of locking America off from everything else. Now, for thousands of years, these Native Americans, they lived there, they inhabited, they colonized everything, right? They made it their own. And then Christopher Columbus in 1492 was trying to get to India in a faster way and ended up in the Americas. And he was like, "Whoa, this place is dope. This place is stacked, man. This place has everything." So he goes, "I'm gonna go back to Europe and tell everyone about this." So he runs back to Europe. He's like, "Yo, you guys gotta see this, boys. This place is sick. You guys gotta come back with me." So they head back, and they go back to the Americas, and they start colonizing. And some of these colonies, there's some of the bigger ones you might know about, and some of these colonies started kind of fighting against each other. And the two big ones are France and Europe and England, right? So, sorry, not Europe, England. France and England start fighting, and then there's this whole war called the French and Indian War, probably heard of it. And England won, naturally, because now we speak English for a reason. And we ended up inhabiting this land. English, not we. Why do I keep saying we? England inhabited this land. Naturally, war is expensive, as you'll learn throughout your history knowledge. So, the crown, the king of England king, decides, "I'm gonna tax all these people that are living in the America." They're already struggling hard enough, by the way, because they just inhabited this land. Harsh weathers at points. They don't have much resources. Very new to this land, and now upon that, it's gonna tax them, right? So naturally, the people aren't really happy about this. So they're like, "Dude, not cool," and they fight back, and that's what we call the revolution. And the people win the revolution, yay! And here's when everything kind of starts to kick up. Then comes probably the most important paper in the history of the United States that you will ever hear about, the Constitution. Right, now this Constitution is important because this is what kind of sets up and lets us build the country as a whole. So they start building, it's hard at first, right? And they're kind of getting back up on their feet from the revolution. And they're getting this country going. And something that really helped this country build was slaves. Now, some people may say this country was literally built on the backs of slaves. That's somewhat true. So we end up finding out, we end up building up with these slaves. We get bigger and bigger and bigger. And don't forget, this whole thing with slaves, with African American slaves, this is really important, so don't forget that. Now, we start building upon the slaves, and there's people like the abolitionists in the North who start realizing, this is messed up. We shouldn't be using people as slaves. The Constitution says every man is equal. Why are we doing this? And then the South is kind of like, we're not going to stop using slaves. The North says you got to. They're like, we can't stop using slaves. That's part of our economy. If we stop using slaves, our economy crashes. We lose our jobs. We get hungry. We die. Right? So the North, they want to do something about this, but they can't really do anything. Then comes Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe, and he says to the South, because he's president of the United States, "You guys got to stop using slaves." So the South decides they're just going to dip. We don't want to be part of America anymore. We're done. Well, bye. They leave. Okay, they just leave the country. Now, obviously, this is going to start a war, right? Because we love wars in America. And this starts the war, and what happens is the North wins. They were just better. They had more stuff, they had more resources, they knew what they were doing more. The South wasn't as prepared, they lost. Okay, now, obviously, the South isn't going to take this well. So what happens is John Wilkes Booth, one of the results of them not taking this well is John Wilkes Booth goes and he shoots Abraham Lincoln in the back of the head. Obviously, this is bad, right? And this also doesn't really help the case. So first, we have to rebuild the country from the war, get everyone back together in line, make sure there's no more slavery, have to make a new president, and go find John Wilkes Booth and kill him. The people got to find a new way to make money. What did they decide to do? Factories! An industrial revolution. They're making all these big factories, putting out stuff, blah, 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 throwing everything, making mass produced, money. Here comes the Gilded Age and Rockefeller. Don't let the gilded part fool you, because gilded means something that's plated in gold. Right? This perfectly represents this time. You have this country that seems like it's thriving, it's growing, it's becoming full. It looks like it on the outside. Coming to America, it's a shithole. But Gilded Age wasn't all that bad. This Gilded Age, because they're kind of growing, getting stronger, making more money, this leads the way for immigrants to come and be like, yo, they're making a ton of money, we want some. They come in, they start becoming part of the country. America starts becoming a melting pot it is today. And people are just getting a ton of money, a ton of money, a ton of money. And we're growing and getting really, really strong. So, but because there's still issues with it, this leads into the progressive era, where things start to progress and things start to change for the better or worse. It was kind of good and bad. So, what happened here was, in the progressive era, we're not the only country that's getting stronger and stronger. Other countries are too. So you have all these other countries that are going stronger and they're getting bigger and they want to have allies. An ally is a country that you will be, if I get in trouble, you're going to come help me, right? So you have all these countries that are allied together, and then one little king or one little prince gets killed, and this triggers this domino effect of all these allies. Now, this causes World War I. America comes in kind of late to World War I because we got the telegram and all this kind of stuff. We still had a big part in the role in the end, and we came and we fought, and then Europe's pretty messed up from this. And they need money because they're targeting Germany. They're like, you gotta give us money for this, it's all your fault. So Europe is dealing with that, and we come back, and things don't go too well. USA's celebrated. Woo! We won! We did this! Yeah, let's have fun. Let's go stronger. Let's even make more money now. Things are going too well. And that causes the stock market to crash. And this leads to the Great Depression. Now everyone knows how the Great Depression goes. Really bad. Breadlines, poverty, loss of jobs, and now actually our unemployment rate is even higher than before. But that, luckily, we have things put in place because of the Great Depression to prevent it from being as bad. But the Great Depression was terrible. And this is how we got out of it. The way we got out of it isn't really what you thought we would do. So, FDR kind of comes, gets kind of close to a dictator, by the way, to a king, to a monarchy, which isn't really good, but that's besides the point. Tries to fix it, does some little stuff, definitely puts things in place that will prevent it from happening in the future. Look today on Corona, how it's not as bad as it would have been if we didn't have these things in place. But the way we got out of it is because of World War II. Adolf Hitler was mad from World War I. He's like, my country is being misrepresented. We look, oh baby, we look bad. And he kind of tries to take over the world with the Nazis. No, this is a big no-no in USA's book. You don't take over the world. We're going to stop them. We go in, again kind of later than before than everyone else. We kind of went in midway. We go into World War II and we kick their butt. Get out of here. Shoot. Nazi scum. We stop it. And we won World War II, and this actually gets our economy back on our feet. So we come back from World War II, and everything's kind of back to normal when it comes to the economy. Not everything's back to normal, but the economy is definitely better than it was during the Great Depression. Economy's back to normal. World War II is over, and we're in the 1950s. Now everyone's kind of having fun, but in the world, the two powerhouses now are USA, God bless America, and the Soviet Union. They also had a really big role in the World War II, and they also helped us defeat the Nazis. And they helped the world defeat the Nazis. They were a big role here. So we have these two big powerhouses, and there's a struggle for who's the stronger nation. There comes the Cold War. We have Vietnam, all these other mini wars, the space race, first to the moon, first to space, first person to space, all these kind of things. And we didn't crush them to the ground. We didn't really destroy them. It kind of happened, and it wasn't really a smart war. It was kind of stupid. And this lasted all the way until the 90s. And in between that, you had peace and hippies and all this kind of stuff, and free love and all that, and, sex and drugs. And now we're back in the 1990s, and this lasted from the 50s to the 90s. 40 years of just petty war with the Soviet Union. And then what happens in the 90s is... what really happened in the 90s is not much. Nothing really huge in U.S. history that we would really talk about forever. But it was what happened in the 90s definitely is a result of what happened in between the times of the 50s and the 90s during the Cold War. And you have, for example, Nixon. He lied to the entire USA. The government lied to the entire USA. We got lied to. And they started putting this thought in his heads like, can you actually trust the government? Is the government that great? Are they amazing people? And not always, unfortunately. And this leads to where we're at today, honestly. You think, like, they learn from their mistakes. Now, the government is, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good government there out there, there's a lot of good people, there's also a lot of bad of them. And now, as I said, don't forget about the slaves, where we're at right now with BLM, the riots and the protests. The protests, I'm all for peaceful protests, but these riots aren't great. Then you have this cop who put his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I don't know about the seconds part, if that's exact. Sorry. And he died in broad daylight. This cop killed this African American in broad daylight. You think, ever since the slaves, all the way back then, that we would have improved, we would have learned from this. Even during segregation, where we had to deal with segregation too, we would have learned from this, but it doesn't look like we did. What do? What's gonna happen? They're sick of it. African Americans are sick of it. I'm sure if I was an African, if I was black, I'd be sick of it too. Being killed, and nothing's happening. No one's doing anything about it. So what happens? Riots, protests. Who knows how this could happen? This, right now, is the time for us to improve. Us, as a country, as a nation, as a people, we need to learn from this. These riots aren't terrible. These riots are terrible. Sorry, they're terrible. These riots aren't good, but they're gonna help. They're gonna make a difference. They might seem like they're not gonna help, but they're definitely gonna end up putting this thought in these people's heads. You don't want to do this again. Cop might be thinking next time he might want to kill a black person, this might cross his mind, and he'll be like, I don't want this to happen again. It's gonna make a difference, for better or for worse, but it's time for change. Thank you for listening to Noah's Brief History of the United States of America. Please come back next time for any other history we learn. Thank you and good night.